Hey everybody. Today we're going to do a tutorial on data persistence using singletons. This is a method that you can use to create data that persists across scenes. That way you don't lose any particular data. You can use it in a few different ways. It also allows you to actually access that information without directly referencing a particular object within a scene. This allows you to access the data across multiple objects at any given time, as long as that particular object with that class is within the scene still. So I want to go ahead and get started on this. I've got a few scripts already set up, and this UI here that I've got is a asset that I got from the Unity Asset Store. You can find that asset at the Unity Asset Store by the name of 2D Casual UI HD. It is free. You can use it and download it to follow along with this tutorial, or you can just use your own UI assets, whichever works best for you. However, I just wanted something real quick to throw up so that way I can get this started and worked on. So credits to Mimu Studio for the art. Let's go ahead and get started. So as you'll see, here's our little UI that we have set up here. In our game scene, we've got a black background. This will be important for later, trust me. But we're going to go ahead, and I want to start by adding an empty game object. I'm just going to name this Game Manager. This is what's going to store the information for our health in this particular scene. Now, with this method, you may want to store other information there, maybe temporarily to pass information onto another scene, whatever. But either way, in this particular case, we're just going to be using it for this particular value right here. So I want to go into my project asset folder, and I'm going to create a new C# script. Now I'm using Unity 6, so some things will be different visually for you. However, there are tutorials out there that can show you how to make use of Unity in the more current versions of Unity. Again, this is a preview version of Unity 6, so my stuff's going to be a little bit different. I'm sure people will have tutorials for that later on, but just follow along best you can here, and this is just what we're going to do. So I've gone ahead and created a new C# script. I'm going to name this one Game Manager as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag this script onto Game Manager object. So you'll see that it's now nested snugly within that game object here. And I'm just going to go ahead and open that script and get started. So here in Visual Studio, I've got my script right here. This is our class for our game manager. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these, so I won't need those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in public static game manager, and I'm going to name that instance. So what we want to do now is create an awake function. And what we want to do is ask the game if there's already an instance of the game manager. So we'll do if instance is equal to null. Then we're going to tell it instance equals this. So basically it tells the game that if there's not a reference already to in the instance itself, if the instance is null, then we want this object to be the instance. And then if there's already an existing one, we'll do else, and we'll just say destroy this. And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a new public int health. I'm going to default this to 3 starting out. This way we have something to start with. We could always set it in the editor, but I just want to do it this way. So we've got health, and we're pretty much set right here. So let's go ahead and go back into Unity. So we've got this game manager here. It's got 3 health. Now what I need to do before I can do anything else is I need to go and I need to set up my buttons. Now I don't have anything in here yet, but we're going to go ahead and create that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new C# script, modify health. And then what I can do is I can just go ahead and drag that script onto my buttons. I don't have to create another object entirely for it. This will work just fine. And for this one here, and then I want to do that same thing with this one here. Now we want to go ahead and create some functions for this. So we go into modify health here in C#. I'll go ahead and just delete these. Now what I want to do is create two functions here. One is going to be public void add health, and the other one's going to be public void subtract health. Now, one of the great things about the Singleton method of doing anything here is we can actually get a call to this game object without having to create a reference to the object here in a start or a wake method or anything like that. And it's just as simple as doing this: game manager dot instance dot health plus plus, and there we go. I've already done all the code for that, and I copy paste it here, do the same thing here. So these two will just update the health in the game manager. I don't have to have any other code or anything like that. So that part is done. So now back in Unity, what I need to do is I need to just go ahead and wire up these buttons, and then we're set. So I'll go ahead and hit on click, hit the plus. I'll just drag that over there, modify health, and we will find the add health. There we go. That button is set. Come back over here to the subtract one, and we'll do the same thing. Modify health, subtract health, and then we're set. So now if we go and hit play, and let's just select the game manager because we don't have everything configured yet, we're going to see we have the starting health of 3, and if we hit the plus, it adds health. If we hit the subtract, it subtracts health. So as you can see, we are referencing the game manager's instance just by one line of code right there, and it works just fine. Now what we want to do is we want this to show that health value. So now I've already got a script attached to this here that I created. So back in Visual Studio, you'll see that I've got using TM Pro, and then I've already got this here set, so that way I can just drop the text object within there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and update that text to show the number that the game manager has for the health. So we'll do this. We're going to do health label dot text equals game manager dot instance dot health, and since it's an int, we need to do .toString, and there you go. So that's all set up, and we'll go back into the editor, and now if we hit play, you'll see it updates to the starting health of 3, and if we hit plus, it adds, hit minus, it subtracts. Now the part that you guys really come to this video for is the data persistence part. So now that we're back in Visual Studio, we just want to add one line here. Don't destroy on load this .game object. And it's important to point that out. We need to make sure that this game object does not get destroyed. Now that being said, we also want to make sure we update this line destroy this to this .game object, because what will end up happening is you're going to have the game object appearing in multiple scenes, so you'll have two game manager objects, but only one of them is going to actually have the component. If you just have destroy, and in parentheses this, what it'll do is it'll destroy the game component rather than the game object. So with these two set up here, with these two lines modified and added here, let's go ahead and go back into Unity. So if we go back into Unity, we've got this all set up here. Let's just go ahead and save our scene, and we'll go into our scenes folder, and I just want to duplicate this scene here, and we will rename this to level 2. And as you'll see in level 1, we got a black background. When we go into level 2, we'll still have a black background, but what I want to do is I want to change that color to a dark purple, just to illustrate that we are switching scenes. And as you'll see here, we've also got the game manager that is over here too. We're going to leave that in there just for the sake of if we load the game and decide that we want to start it at level 2 instead of level 1, we'll have that available to us. Now what I want to do here is just make sure my buttons are all set up here. I want this to load level 1 and save that, go back to level 1, check my button, make sure that this is set to go to level 2, so that's good. So now I'll set my build settings here. As you'll see, I already have level 2 in there. So we'll go ahead and we'll just test out the game. Okay, and so you'll see Game Manager is now down here under Do Not Destroy on Load. Let's go ahead and add a couple and go to the next level. And it's persisted, and the Game Manager on level 2 did not load. And then of course if we subtract and move back to level 1, it continues to persist. This information is continuing to move to the next scene. And so what you could do with this singleton is you do all sorts of things like public int mana equals 4. You can do public int gold equals 100. And you can do so many different things with this, and it will work just fine for a single player game to be able to pass information off to the next scene. So that way you've got a form of a global value that you can access from anywhere, and you won't lose it anytime you move on to the next scene. And again, there's multiple ways that you can do this. You don't have to necessarily do this method in order to get persistent data to go across scenes. You can do a number of different methods, such as having one root scene and just additively load sub-scenes to that, and just keep one object that stores that information across the whole game. You could do save files that saves every time you exit a scene, then just reloads when you get into a new scene. I mean, you could do numerous things to do it, but this is just one method. And what I'll do is I will also add a article in the description of this video that's basically titled Singletons in Unity Done Right. And when you go to that, you can look through some code examples, and it will give you an idea of the best ways to use singleton patterns. And hopefully all this information will be helpful to you. If you followed along this far, you've at least gotten a good idea of the basics of using this. So if this tutorial was helpful for you, consider hitting thumbs up on the video, hitting subscribe, and keeping an eye out for future videos, and I hope to see you guys next time.